everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and tonight our special guest is Ishmael Perez, and my co-host, well, I'll be bringing Augie up here in just a moment and talking a little bit more about him, but I do want to thank those of you in the audience who are watching us live, or if you're watching us on replay and YouTube or any of the other Conscious Awakening Network platforms. Thank you so much, and I also want to thank you for tuning in and helping us to cross that 50,000 viewership mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, as I said, this month I have Augie Nost, and I absolutely love Augie, and I met him actually when I was being interviewed on his show with Broadcast Team Alpha. But Augie, in addition to being a talk show host for over 25 years, has also authored 2 different books, The Spiritual Science, Higher Consciousness Thinking, and To Access the Universal Consciousness. And he also wrote Universal Successful Principles and How Billionaires Think. And later on this month, I'm actually going to interview Augie so he can tell us all about those phenomenal works. But right now, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to you, Augie, and I'll bring our guest up. So welcome, Ishmael.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Hi there, God, I'm glad you could make it tonight, because if you couldn't make it, she was going to interview me.
Yeah, sorry for the delay, guys. I was teaching an
all
online
right.
course.
That's okay. You're kind of a newcomer to this arena and almost like an overnight success. And that's kind of unusual because evidently, the good ones, they just take their time, they study, they learn before they go out on the world and start to teach others. So that's usually what happens. I want to say a couple of snips from your bio here, and that is that for those that 3 out there that don't know you, I know all the rest of them do. And you are a cosmic ambassador that represents an intergalactic alliance known as the Covenant of Palador, or however you would pronounce that. It is cosmic treaty initiated by the forces of light in higher dimensions to protect and guard Earth from the Draco forces. He is also a super soldier involved in the cosmic war, and he is an author. And a book there is Our Cosmic Origin. And I know Sheila can hold that book up so we can all see it.
I got my copy in today. I was hoping to get it Friday, Ishmael, so I could read it before you came on tonight, but I definitely will devour it this week.
Yeah, that's the old edition.
Okay. Okay, and he's also a sought-after speaker, a guest on many different types of shows, and a frequent guest on conferences. And now you heard enough from me. We want to hear from Ishmael. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me here. It's a great honor and pleasure to talk to people that are willing to listen about information that was eradicated from all records regarding the true planetary and galactic history and our relationship to the various types of ETs that are out there, but that are also walking and living among us, of course.
Absolutely. I have so many questions, and I was wondering if maybe, let's start out with your book. If you could tell people about your book. So you said this was the old one. Have you reprinted this?
Yes, actually, I do have a up-to-date version, which is like a pink cover, or Cosmic Origin.
All right. I guess I'll have to be getting that one too.
Yeah, and I also have it now on audio for those that would rather listen to it than read it. And yeah, it took me about a little over 10 years to write this book. And the reason being is because I only wrote when I felt inspired, when I was getting the downloads. However, I did do the research to back it up. I studied many other resources, such as the works of Barbara Handclough, Barbara Marcinic, as well as some highly classified information to kind of confirm and validate a lot of the stuff that I talk about in here. So what is the difference between Our Cosmic Origin and other extraterrestrial or books that reveal the extraterrestrial connection? Well, in our cosmic origin, I integrate cutting edge science through the field of quantum physics, and I bridge it or I integrate it with ancient metaphysical knowledge to explain the different dimensions. I also integrated with the Bible's version of angels and demons in terms of positive ETs and negative ETs. And I also integrated with the concept of the cosmology as revealed in the Urantia material. And something new that I did in my book that nobody else has done is I was able to tap into the galactic history of the Earth and the real history of the Nibirians, who we call now the Anunnaki, and how it all kind of plays out in our suppressed history, and really how it all ties into the events that are unfolding during these days as we enter, or as we are now entering, a new era. So it is a very informative book. Some people might perceive it as very dense because I reveal different systems of cosmology that haven't been heard of in like thousands of years. I also introduce a new system of cosmology that nobody has ever talked about, called the system of the 12 living universes, the 12 cosmic rays of power, and the different archetypes that are the overseers of those 12 different universes, and how our individual universe is part of the 12th creation. So we are part of 12 different creations. So we, as being members of the 12 creations, that explains how everything is in the numerical value system of 12. For instance, we have the 12 signs of the zodiac, or the 12 houses. We have the 12 chakras, the 12 strands of DNA, the 12 tribes of Israel. I mean, there's just so many correspondences to the 12. And the Council of 12, of course, the pantheon of the 12 gods. It all ties into the system of the 12. And what I also do in my book is, in the new version, I add a chapter that actually reveals what happens after the ascension, because a lot of these manuscripts talk about this coming war at the end of the millennium, and nobody really knows what that war is all about. Well, I've come to discover that that war has a lot to do with artificial intelligence, and how the star seeds, through the genetic upgrades, through the activation of dormant DNA, are going to pretty much be the victors and the heroes at the end of the millennium, as we, fight one final victory against artificial intelligence. So in the second edition, I actually reveal what happens when the Earth is once again restored back to the galactic community, and how we have like this long period of peace that many manuscripts, including the Bible, call the millennium. And of course, we call it the age of Aquarius. But at the end of the millennium, we are going to have one final clash, and then that clash will ultimately determine a new era in cosmos, which is going to be very bright, because as many of you guys know, according to the quantum model of reality, the future is in the past are coexisting with the present. So we do win that war.
Yay, that's good to know. So
Yeah.
I also want to ask now, how does this all feed into like the solar flash and the reevaluation process that so many people are talking about right now, where the digital currency is supposed to take effect this month?
Again, there will be and many people have supported this concept, some sort of a split in timelines, a bifurcation in timelines, where in one aspect or in one probability, we're not going to have a digital currency. We're not going to have a one world government controlled by AI. That's the negative timeline.
Right.
Yeah, as I decoded ancient prophecies, there will be some sort of, and as supported by Dolores Cannon, she did talk about this new Earth, this bifurcation of timeline, where the people that are spiritual are going to be part of a paradise Earth, which is what we call fifth dimensional reality Earth, where there is no chemtrails, where there is no cabal, there is no inequality, and technically there is no economy. Everything is different and returning back to the organic way of life. And then there's going to be a different version of the Earth that's also going to split. So I believe that this great event called the solar flash is going to be the demarcation point that is going to actually split those two timelines when it does happen. So for the people that are on the positive timeline, reality is going to change in a split second. They're going to be technically translated into what is known as the Terra Earth, where Atlantis never declined, Lemuria is still fully intact, Tartaria. I mean, we're talking about these advanced spiritual cultures that were eradicated from our own history that are still existing in this parallel positive version of the Earth. And then for those that do not make the positive split, which is what I guess the religious manuscripts call the harvest, are going to go into this negative dystopian technocratic timeline, which is going to ultimately be ruled by the beast, which is artificial intelligence. So there's going to, but before it gets to that point, we still have time. There's going to be a solar event that is going to kind of split those two Earths. And I'm not talking about a physical split. I'm talking about a vibrational split where people that are on the positive timeline are going to disappear from those that stay behind on the old timeline, which is the negative Earth. So there will be some sort of change, drastic change that's going to take place.
I think there is some religious writing to that effect. I know that Christians, isn't that what they call the rapture? The chances are that they write to the effect that, you will see someone in the next second he is gone.
Mm-hmm.
That could be the sun flare, the sun, whatever happens there, I think will also not necessarily all be positive, because like you're talking about the two timelines, for the ones that is in a negative timeline, that could be a little heavy burden after that happens. And let them have that. I don't care, because I'm not going to be there. But in this one, I wonder how it will be after. What would our life be like afterwards?
In the positive timeline, we're not going to taste death. Our bodies are literally going to translate from this carbon-based vehicle to a crystalline-based vehicle where we're going to regenerate to looking 30, and everyone's going to be young looking, and we're going to live for hundreds of thousands of years, depending on which density you are upgraded to. The higher because some of us are going to have the opportunity to ascend into higher densities in the 5th dimension. And so depending on where your vibration is, you're going to live longer. But ultimately, as we ascend, we're all heading into some sort of immortality, natural immortality, not the immortality that the technocrats are trying to impose through merging with technology, which is a Luciferian version of immortality, but through the natural activation of dormant DNA. We do have a gene that is laying dormant within our inactive genetics that will allow us to live, forever. So it's going to look much different for those that go into the positive timeline.
So would this be part of the genetic set that we originally had before we were so-called tampered with?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, the original Earthlings were known as the 12-strand Terranusian race. And so we've been downgraded to only 2 helices of the 12 strands. And that was done by Enki, unfortunately, to kind of create a slave race. And this ties into the story of the Anunnaki, right? And why they needed to create a slave race to mine the gold. But all that is being reverted. All that is being reverted as our dormant DNA is now reactivating due to the CMEs are coming in. So basically what's happening right now is that we are all going through some sort of genetic upgrade as we are getting ready to shift into the new Earth that is already coexisting simultaneously with this current Earth. It's just on a different vibrational frequency. So first we take our consciousness there, and many of us are already doing that through the spiritual work, through the inner work, dealing with the shadow, learning how to clear wounds and past traumas, learning how to integrate that. And the more people do that, the faster we're going to get everyone else on board, because we're all connected via some sort of organic mind hive. And so I think there is a critical mass effect that's going to take place as a result of enough people doing this vibrational or this inner work that is going to cause the tilt for the good people of the Earth, even if they're not star seeds, even if they're not light warriors. If they're generally good people, it's going to cause a natural tilt for them to go into the positive timeline. Only the wicked And the powers that were, those that are associated with the technocrats and the elites, are unfortunately going to be, going into the negative timeline.
Good riddance.
The what?
Good riddance.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, when you're talking about a genetic upgrade, there's actually some evidence to that, because I believe it was at UCLA. There was a team of scientists that did an experiment where they extracted DNA from, there were indigo children. And they found that some of what we call the junk DNA started to assemble itself and become a third strand. So, and they were also very psychic, they were very intuitive, and extremely artistic.
That's accurate. That's very accurate.
Yeah, you probably read about that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, even us, the star seeds that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and 60s, and 70s, that were part of the first and second wave, have already a third and fourth strand of DNA. And that explains why the black goo, the chemtrails, and all of that poisonous stuff, genetically modified foods, is not affecting us, because we are already using more than 2 strands, by the way. Yes.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, that's a proven fact.
Yeah, Caroline Corey did some studies with children, as well as, Mary Rodwell, indicating that, these children that are coming in awake. A lot of them are very much aware of the planet that they have come in from, and they're very, very familiar with the work that they're actually here to do. And most all of these kids talk about, they're here to shift the timelines. They're here to shift, to help to create, to cultivate this new planet.
That's correct as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys are all part of it. Everyone on this, Zoom call, the listeners, the reason you guys are resonating with this type of information is because you guys are all part of the rescue team mission that was that volunteered to come and raise the vibrational frequency of this planet. And a lot of the people that are expecting some sort of external savior are being misled, because technically, I believe, and this is what I've been talking about and teaching, is that the star children and the star adults, and that includes you guys as well, we are the expected saviors of humanity. All the volunteers that are here as a team are through the activation of the dormant DNA. When the stargates open upon the solar flash, we're going to have the ability to take only the good people of the earth into the new earth, and of course leaving the wicked behind. And I'm talking about the pedophiles and the wicked, the warmongers, the sorcerers, and the dark magicians, the mafias, and all that stuff. We're going to leave them behind, and they're going to just suffer the fate of this technocratic dystopia, which is going to ultimately enslave them. Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I saw on a YouTube video where they already have robots, or basically clones, that are so human-like that you really can't tell the difference. And I was also in Denver, in the Whole Foods. They now have a scanner that you place your palm on. And I asked the girl at the checkout, I'm like, why are you supposed to put your palm? She goes, she goes, and I'm scared to death of this thing, but she says, I think that what it does is it reads your palm, it picks up your prints, and it goes to an account that you have money in to pay for your groceries without you setting it up. All you have to do is place your palm on it.
Yeah, that's an indicator that things are going into that direction. The Bible calls it the mark of the beast, which is what they call a social credit system, which has already been implemented in some of these dictatorship countries like, China and other parts of the world, where they're trying to push it, the globalist agenda. One of the things that I talk about is that we're actually being invaded by an alien predatory AI, which is a gradual invasion that takes place from within. And that explains the rollout, the medicine rollout, in the last 2 years. That's part of the genetic modification. They want to alter the human species into cyborgs. That's part of what they call transhumanism. So that's why I believe that the solar flash is going to nuke, even for those that were coerced into getting this medicine, this, this stuff that they injected. That's supposed to neutralize all of that nanotechnology within their bodies and totally allow them to ascend. But for those that were believing in that stuff and did it because they felt that it was the right thing to do without questioning it, and got, booster after booster after booster. Unfortunately, they're not going to be making the positive timeline. So it's going to be interesting the way it all unfolds. That's how this alien AI invades worlds. They don't do it openly. That's too primitive. They do it through slow, gradual invasion and infiltration. And it's a process of 10 years, and that explains Agenda 2030, which used to be known as Agenda 2045. And what that whole agenda is about is implementing some sort of a global social credit system, where they connect everyone who's gotten, shot after shot after shot to this Borg mind. And that's what they want. They want to make sure that everyone is mentally controlled by the Borg, which is what they already kind of put into place. But again, the solar flash is going to destroy and neutralize that infrastructure.
Yeah, and when you talked about AI like that, the head of the Motorola electronics division, he said in an interview about a year ago, I heard the interview, and he said in 2030, he says, no one will need to carry a phone around because we will have the phone here. All we have to do is to think a message and the other one gets it.
Yes, that's part of the transhumanist agenda. They call it, well, it used to be called Agenda 2044, but again, now it's Agenda 2030. They're trying to speed things up because they know that the solar flash is coming, and that would be the end of Agenda 2030 as we know it, which is the ultimate, which is what they call a post-human era, the era of the cyborgs, But yeah, you're right, Augie. Ultimately, they want to take away our devices. First, they want everybody to become addicted to the devices. So when the time comes to put it inside ourselves so that we can interface with the technology and the internet of things, which is going to be there, well, according to them, it's going to be everywhere, right? Then at that point, we have no other option but to merge with the technology. But we're not going to be buying into that, of course, because there is a resistance against that through our community.
Yeah, and then the thing about it is that we will become so that we will be a walking computer with total access to everything on the internet by thought. But the thing about it is that we have a way to develop this on our own.
Absolutely. Yes.
Speak on that, because we don't need those electronics to be able to talk to other people, and we can do that.
Right.
Yes. We only use 4% of our full genetic material. And what they call junk DNA is really the genes that allow us to have these abilities and have these powers: telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, flight, the ability to neutralize gravity and fly, literally, all within our dormant DNA. So the Luciferian path to this is to do it through technology. But God's plan, which is the organic way of life, which is the natural ascension, those that don't become lazy and merge with technology, are going to do it naturally when the solar flash takes place through the ascension. So what we are going to be witnessing in the future, perhaps by 2030, is the rise of the next stage of human evolution, whether you're doing it through technology, the Luciferian path, or whether you're doing it through the activation of your dormant DNA, which is what we call the ascension. Yeah. And in either case, you're going to have angelic humans who are going to be part of the new Earth. And then on a different timeline, you're going to have robotic cyborgs that are going to do it lazily, through technology. They're going to be lazy about it. So they want to achieve the same abilities, the same status, but without doing the spiritual work, by merging with the machine. So that's the difference.
So in fact, this will take us back to that organic terranusium state that we were originally in before Enki started helping us out.
Well, before he made us into a slave race, yeah, because we come from the Atlantean race, which is known as the fourth root race. We're
Right.
part of the fifth root race, and I believe we're going to be entering the seven root race. As we activate dormant DNA, we're going to be emerging as what we call Homo luminous, which is, or Homo galactus. There's different names to describe this emergence, which is going to be humans with supernatural abilities. So what the Cabal is doing is, because they know of this prophecy, is they're trying to do it the lazy way through technology. And that's why there has to be one final clash at the end of the millennium when these two timelines merge again. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering real quickly, if you can describe for us a little bit about these other universes. You mentioned that we're one part of 12. Can you explain that for people?
Sure. So the way it works is that we are part of an organized multiverse where our local universe is organized into a bigger cosmic body or system. There were 11 prior creations prior to the 12, which is the universe that we're part of. But even within each creation, there are minor local universes. So to give you an example, the universe is organized in numbers, so everything has a Stargate coordinate, you could say, including galaxies, constellations, and planets. So we are part of the 7th super universe, which is one fragment of the omniverse, because the omniverse, so there's a portion of the omniverse which we call the realms of eternity. They have always existed, and that is equivalent to what scientists call the motherverse. So the universes that are experiments in time and space, or what we call simulations, are extensions of the base reality, which is eternity. Everything else is just a kind of a simulation. So all the dimensions are just lesser simulations as we go into the realms of eternity where everything's base reality. So our eternal spheres divides first into 7 aspects. So we're part of the 7th region. And then within that 7th region, you have 12 major creations. So within the 12 creations, we're part of the 12th creation. So that's where our universe is. So in terms of like numbers, we're part of the 7th super universe, 12 major cosmic sector, which is the 12th creation. Within the 12th creation, we're part of the 3rd minor cosmic sector. Within the 3rd minor cosmic sector, we're part of the 84th local universe. Within the 84th local universe, we're part of the 70th constellation, because each universe has 100 constellations. So we're part of the 70th. And then within the constellation that we're part of, we're known as the system of the 24, or the 24th system, because each constellation has 100,000 systems. And then each system has anywhere from 600 to 900 evolving terrestrial worlds. So within that system, we're known as planetary 606. Yeah, so that way everything is registered and everything has a coordinate. So that's where we stand in the organization of the multiverse.
This is amazing. And, we could really just sit here and ask you questions all night, but I do know that you've got to get back to your class. So for people who are interested in learning more about your work and about your classes, can you tell them how they can get a hold of you and what classes or courses that you have available right now?
Yes, I do have a website called thecosmicarts.com. It's all one word. And in that website, you have access to my Audible version of my book. If you want to order a hardcover, you have access to all my courses. So I do teach 3 courses. I teach a Starseed Cosmology class, which we go into detail. I explain the different dimensions all the way to the 12. I cover the cosmic and galactic history in detail, which is a 6-hour course, but we divided into 3 parts, 2 hours each week. So that way it's not 6 hours a day, right? I also teach another course where we use your natal chart to pinpoint your origin, your galactic origin, and tell you exactly what system you originated from. So I originated in the Lyran system on a planet called Avion in the star system of Vega. Some people originated in Ta Seti, the Pleiades, Arcturus, depending on your natal chart. I also teach myth and theology, which we go over the different types of mythologies and how it ties into the extraterrestrials, how the gods of mythology are pretty much extraterrestrials and their influence over our world as archetypes. We go into different explanations of eschatology, which is the last battle between good and evil that is supposed to be taking place at the end of the cycle. And I also teach, that's it, those 3 courses right now. So yeah, that's my website, thecosmicarts.com. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. Great, great. Augie, do you have a final question before we open it up to our audience?
Yeah, I wanted to have maybe a lot of people are weary out there right now. There's a lot of strange stuff going on, and a lot of people are just flat scared. And I think maybe we could use a little reassurance that I know I've seen enough of the future. I know things are going to be okay, but that's just one voice. We need to hear it from other people. What can you tell people about the future that's going to put them a little more to ease?
Well, if you are a good person, if you're living accordingly to spiritual laws, or even if you're just not a spiritual person, but you're just genuinely a good person, you will have a bright future. You know, you will be able to ascend into the new earth. The new earth will consist of 4 densities, density 4, density 5, and density 6, which is known as the Terra Earth. It's already here. It's just existing on these different densities beyond the 3rd. If you're wicked, the only people that have to, I guess the only people that I would say are not going to make the positive timeline are the wicked. If you're out there literally hurting others, if you're out there, if you're a type of person who is just causing emotional trauma, inflicting physical or mental pain deliberately on others, it's about time you change those ways, because if you don't change them when the solar flash occurs, you're not going to be in a very happy place. So for those that are not wicked, there is a bright future, because there is a God. There is a higher intelligence, and it's not the religious God, not a man with a beard sitting on a cloud. It is a universal life intelligent force that is everywhere. And this universal life intelligent field knows everyone, because we are all fractals of that. So because there is a God source above all galactic councils and above all extraterrestrials, the good people of the earth are going to have a bright future. So there's God's plan, and then there's, of course, Lucifer's plan, but at the end of the millennium, Lucifer's plan is going to come to a halt, and it's not going to, exist anymore.
God's plan and the other guy's plan, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is really the artificial intelligence, because for those that follow my work, what we're ultimately fighting on a cosmic level of reality is artificial intelligence. Machine is the beast, the machine. We have all types of ETs out there. We have organic-based ETs that are connected to source. And then we have silicon-based ETs that are cybernetic androids that have no connection to source, that feed off of our life force in order to exist. And so eventually that's going to come to an end. And that's going to usher in a whole new era of peace in the cosmos.
Beautiful. Well, that's a wonderful positive note to open up our questions from the audience. So here we go. All right, Gwinnett, you have your hand up.
Hello, hi everybody. Hi Ishmael. Thank you for taking my call. You can hear me.
You know what? We really
Can y'all hear me?
You're breaking up. Let's see. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Kind of.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can put on is this?
Okay, are you
Hello?
there? Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is this better?
What is
Okay,
your question?
good. My question is, given that we live in a multi-dimensional reality already, I'm just asking in terms of Anunnaki history. I know Ishmael kind of, saying Ishmael is referring to Enki as the negative one and Lil as the good one. And there are others that refer to the complete opposite. So I guess my question is, Ishmael, given that we live in a multidimensional world, could you be reading a particular timeline and others reading a different timeline? And if that's the case, how does it all fit into this ascension? Thank you.
Ultimately, all the timelines are going to be collapsing into one as the bifurcation takes place after the solar flash. But everything we know about the ancient Sumerian gods or the Anunnaki was all inverted by Marduk, who was the son of Enki. Marduk rearranged all the records in order to make him and his father look like the good guys. But when you study other accounts that are not Sumerian in origin, like, for instance, the Greek version, as written by Plato, and if you consider that Enki and Poseidon were one and the same, different translation, and Enlil and Zeus are the same being, different translation, then you start seeing it differently, because according to the Greek translation, Poseidon had a pair of 10 sons, right? He had 10 sons, the 10 ruling kings. And through his children, he wanted to take over the world and he corrupted Atlantis, and he wanted to bring about world domination. But who stopped him? Enlil, Zeus, or according to the Greeks, it was Zeus. And Zeus was known as the chief god or the guardian of the earth during Atlantean times. And then when you look at their genetics, okay, everything is driven by genetics. When you study who Zeus's mother was, she was the queen of the Pleiades. She was the queen of Alcyone, Antu. And then when you study who his father was, Anu was a direct descendant of the original house of what we call the Syrian High Council, because that's where the original Anunnaki come from. But then later it was infiltrated by the reptilians, the Omicrons or the Draconians of Orion, by giving us Enki, because Enki's mother was Draconian. And then if you study other accounts like the Rig Vedas, they talk about the trickster god, known by different names, again, corresponds to Poseidon, Enki. And he was also a master geneticist. And what does that mean? That means he was able to tamper with the DNA of the original 12-strand DNA Terranusian, which was already in place in Atlantean times. And that was the race that Zeus was supposed to guard. But his half-brother Enki Poseidon corrupted that lineage because they were trying to corrupt the bloodline that led to Jesus. And that explains why Enki created all these abominations, all these monsters, all these hybrids that even the Cabal and the negative ETs are creating in the secret space program. You know, they're creating different monsters by mixing human genetics with animal genetics, zeta, insectoid, and reptilian to create abominations. So this is the same program that Enki put into place during the times of Atlantis. And through his son, they were able to change everything, all the records around, because who took over after Atlantis? Who took over the affairs of our planet? Marduk. And if you study who Marduk was in the pantheon of the gods, he was known as Belial Baal. And then that is who has been in charge and at the head of the Cabal, the Babylonian Brotherhood, the 13 Illuminati bloodlines since ancient times. So in fact, all the children that have been sacrificed to Baal, Marduk, were sacrificed by the Cabal in order to feed Marduk, because all the reptilians feed off of the louche, right? The adrenochrome, especially the children, and they actually eat children. Marduk and his cousin Molech, which was another Draconian, are the ones that all these children have been sacrificed to. So that's why when people say Enki was the good one, is because they're basing it on the tampered records that Marduk rearranged. So you could say that the reason why a lot of people are saying Enki's the good one is because they forget that all the records were tampered with, including our Bible. And so that's why I say that it's the opposite. Everything that they say, just flip it around, because all the written records were tampered with except the Greek translations and the Vedic translations. But as far as like the Western records, which stem from ancient Sumeria and Egypt, they were tampered with.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was an awesome answer. Okay, do we have another question? All right. If not, Augie, I'll take it back to you.
Oh, okay. Well, we are. You mentioned in your bio that you were involved in the cosmic war. When we talk about war in the heavens, a lot of people's their eyes glaze over and they say, "Yeah, sure." But there is actually some evidence for that, physical evidence that people can see. There is a guy in Canada. His name is Bruce Schwartz. He has a YouTube channel that is called Bruce Sees All. And you need to go look at it because he's got a telescope that is so big that I could crawl inside of it. And he can aim that at the moon, and he has pictures of huge buildings, square buildings and structures and all kinds of stuff on the moon. And also he has a video where he shows huge explosions. They are explosions that is white. It's not any other, it's just a white explosion. And that comes not from oil, that comes from something else. And that it doesn't look like that, but a meteorite or anything like that hit. That is miles wide, this explosion. And there are several of them that he's taken like that. So there's something going on the moon. That could be that war you were talking about. Am I onto something, or is Bruce onto something?
Both of you guys are correct. Yes, in the last few years, there's been a huge war between the Earth Alliance faction, known as Solar Warden, and the Dark Fleet and Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, which are the off-world groups that are, well, the Dark Fleet and the ICC. Those are the off-world groups that are working with the Draconians and the AI. And then Solar Warden, which is the Earth Alliance, is working with the benevolent positive ETs. So in the last, we could say, since 2014, there was a huge defect. A lot of the members of the ICC defected in Dark Fleet to join Solar Warden in their war on the Dark Fleet and on the negative ETs in order to liberate our solar system from the control of the Dracos. Because the Dracos have been in control of our solar system since the times of Atlantis, since the fall of Atlantis. And so we have recently, the super soldiers of Solar Warden have recently liberated our solar system within the last, I think the liberation came about in 2018, 2019. That's when they took over the moon colonies, the Lunar Operating Command, as well as Arius Prime and other Martian colonies, advanced outposts that were established by the breakaway groups. So recently, within the last few years, we could say that there's been a huge house cleansing taking place within our solar system, conducted by the Earth Alliance in collaboration with the Guardian Alliance and the benevolent galactic fleets that are working with our Solar Warden in order to liberate the Earth. And the reason why the Earth Alliance is not fully yet exposing the cabal is because there's been a few other skirmishes that have been taking place due to some stargates that were left open that have access to Orion. And so some other dark entities have been coming in the last 2 years. And so that's where Space War has been. Space Force, I'm sorry, which is the open version of Solar Warden. That's what they've been doing in the last couple of years, is that they're just securing our solar system before they completely dispose the cabal on a general public level.
And along those lines, isn't there some activity occurring right now on Mars?
Between Space Force and some negative ETs that are trying to come in through the portals. So the portals are still active. There are ancient portals, and then there are new portals that were developed by creating artificial jump gates. So a lot of these portals right now, there's a huge war taking place because of these portals. So the Earth Alliance is trying to secure the portals as much as possible, so that there is no more invasions coming in from, not only our galaxy, but what we call alternative universes. Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff is, to some, it might sound sci-fi-ish, but it's real. Sci-fi is telling us the truth. So,
yeah. They do. They open it because the dark side have to tell us somewhere what they're going to do. And I know enough about you. I know that you have sources behind the veil that you can ask of things. What do you hear from the wind about the Cabal's Operation Blue Beam? Do you think they'll be able to implement the fake alien invasion?
They canceled out that timeline because the Earth Alliance has access to technology where they're able to see future probabilities through looking glass. So they were able to pretty much pin down the Cabal on every probable timeline. And so it's not going to happen anymore. Project, or what they call this, using holographic technology, creating a fake alien invasion, that's all canceled. So it's not going to happen anymore.
Not in our timeline. I totally agree.
Yeah. If anything, we're going to be, everything is gearing towards first contact with the Galactic Alliance and the Federation of Free Worlds. So.
Yeah, you got a date stamp on that one?
That's a good one. I have a time frame between now and no later than 2028.
Yeah, you can narrow it down a little more, couldn't you?
Well, there is a timeline war taking place in the future between us as angelic humans, metahumans, humans with abilities, supernatural powers, and the AIs. So due to that timeline war, things are constantly fluctuating in the presence. But we even win that war. And then we create a new treaty as a result of winning that war. And the treaty has a lot to do with we set up a policy that is going to be, implemented across the universe, where we can no longer develop artificial intelligence because, it always goes wrong and it always turns against life. So we after we win that war, we create a new policy where we try not to repeat the same mistakes of the past, so that we don't have to do this again in another cycle eventually.
Well, that's amazing and great to know. And Ishmael, it's been wonderful having you here tonight. I do want to honor your time. I know you've got a class that you've got to get back to. We'd love to have you back and ask you so many more questions. Hands are going up like crazy. People have all kinds of questions that they're wanting to ask. There's activity occurring in the chat, but let me just ask again, if you could repeat your website for people so that they could reach out and get a hold of you, maybe sign up for your courses.
Yes, it's actually called the cosmicarts.com. thecosmicarts.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. And thank you for being here as our guest tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all your questions. Augie, thank you so much for bringing Ishmael to us tonight. I really appreciate it. And so, everyone, until we are all back together again next week, I wish you a beautiful and blessed week, and namaste. So
what I'll do for you guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that in 2 weeks, if you want to bring me back on, I could do another hour and a half. We could do questions and answers.
Okay, Augie, let's get that worked out. We'll do it.
I think that can work, actually. I think that weekend, that Monday, I'm giving it a 95% right now because I think I'm almost sure that can be done. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Let's do. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks again, everyone, for being here. Much love. And we'll see you then on Thursday. Okay. So good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.